Welcome back to Bits and Boards. I'm Anthony Krolikowski, and today we are going to do some card game fun. Now, I don't think we've had any card game-esque guests on yet. We've done a couple video game developers, and we've touched on the local esports scene, but nothing when it comes to trading cards, which is something that I have a whole lot of when it comes to Pokemon cards. But talk about something a little different, but seems like something a little inspired by Pokemon. It is called Escape Land. And joining me today is Matthew Combs. He is the man behind Get Good Games. And first, sir, just thank you for joining me today and taking that time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Wonderful to be here. Glad to be a guest and glad to be your first card game guest. That's dope. I had no idea.
Well, I like to feature, local developers, and obviously you're not quite local. You're based out of Virginia, but that's totally fine. I'm just happy to get something like a project like this and talk about it and share this sort of stuff. A little bit of background for me when it comes to card games. I've collected Pokemon cards since a little kid, and I didn't actually learn how to play the game until high school. And I feel like that was for a lot of people in my social group or people I knew, like nobody really knew how to play the game, and it wasn't till you went to your local card store, then people kind of cared to get around to playing it. So I don't know if it was the same for you when it came to pulling up the cards.
Yeah, so it was actually funny. So my experience is it was same thing. I was a kid, right? It was the 90s. So my dad brought home Pokemon packs, and it was like base set Pokemon packs. He brought like each, me and my brother, like 6-pack each. We bust open the packs. At the time, I'm just a kid, right? I have no idea what I pulled, didn't pull. So I was like, oh, cards are so cool. But my brother is 5 years older than me. He ended up actually pulling like an original base set Charizard, like which was. I mean, anyone in the collectibles community knows how crazy that is. But at the time, I had no idea. And then, like you, I didn't know how to play. I just loved the cards so much, and it wasn't until I got a little bit older and played other games that I really jumped into the space totally. But yeah, Pokemon was the same for me.
Jumping into your game here, Escape Land, just tell me first. Give me that wide overarching view of what exactly it is and what we're getting into here.
Absolutely. So Escape Land itself is meant to be a new type of collectible card game that focuses a lot on accessibility and approachability. So a lot of times when games are designed, especially in our space, unfortunately, because the time period we're in, they're pretty much designed for 30-year-old dudes. And that is pretty much the wide ranging span of the trading card game space. And so for me, I've designed games before. I've worked on other games. Like, for just an example, I worked with Bandai for about 3 years, over 10 sets of a very popular trading card game that's still out there today. And then I worked on my own first project, and then I wanted to just design something for my wife. And that sounds interesting, right? But I wanted to kind of show her why I love this so much, like why I love games, trading card games, etc. And the vehicle to do that was trying to create a game that has a simplified experience up front that people can learn, but then have enough replayability that you'll just want to keep playing over and over again. And so that was my challenge with Escape Land, and I'm proud to say that we've delivered. My wife is now a full-blown TCG player, and she beats me on the regular now.
I have not had as great luck with my significant other in getting him into card games, but he's more of a shooter-esque person. So different realms when it's currently. But I can also agree when I was growing up in high school, and even now when I used to go to tournaments here and there, but I was maybe 16, 18, and there was a bunch of 30-year-olds playing Pokemon cards. And then now that same group, they're a little older, but I'm 20-some, 22, 23 around that time. And there's that age group is then since they still play, and they're still a little bit older. So it seems like there is certainly an age range that does play cards and is attracted to cards. But when it comes to your game here, one thing that really stuck out to me is that in the Kickstarter that I saw is that it says instead of defeating monsters, you rescue them. So go through that sort of, the play style here and what also inspired that as well. It seems like something that PETA would certainly like when it comes to a game.
Yeah, so taking an approach or a crack at this genre, right, of like critters and monsters and things like that, trying to create a new type of game is not necessarily easy. And for I've always been a huge fan of card games that have comeback mechanics. So effects that keep you in the game. So in Escape Land, when you're actually rescuing monsters, and the way you do that is you summon critters into play, and then each turn your critters in play gain points. Every single time you hit 20 points, you rescue a rival player's trapped monster. When you rescue that monster, that rival player gets the benefit of that monster's effect. And so there's effects that range from KOing something on the other player's board, drawing you extra cards, just doing something to help shift the tide of the game. And what's kind of really cool is that the game, it's like almost like a race, because you're trying to race to rescue the opposing player's monsters first and then set them free. But because of the way that the monsters act when they're rescued, it keeps the game close throughout the entirety of it. So it's like you may feel like you're far behind at one point, but then the right monster gets flipped over, gives you the exact effect you need, and then now you're off to the races, you're back into the game and you catch up. And so that is essentially what the monsters are there for, is to serve as that. But yeah, you're not defeating monsters this game. You're actually rescuing them, trying to set them free. And I'm an animal lover. You know, it's like, why do we got to beat up the monsters? Why do we got to KO them? Why can't we just set them free and let them roam the earth? You know?
I will say that when it comes to playing card games, it feels like a lot of them, obviously it is a luck-based game because you're drawing from a deck, but adding on to that, in Pokemon, for example, when you are winning, there's prize cards for people who don't know. So you knock out your opponent's Pokemon, you get a card that's face down, you add that to your hand, and you're getting stronger while your opponent is behind. And of course, you're hoping that flip flops throughout the game, but that's not always the case. Somebody gets super lucky. You're not getting ahead. It can be real tough. So it seems like you're rescuing somebody's monster, and that monster's helping them, but also letting you get towards winning the game. Seems like you got a good balance there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a lot of fun to mess with and design in general, and it's created because the way you start every game is you have four monsters of your own. You shuffle them up, and then you set one aside, and then you set three down. And so what that creates is that bit of variance you've talked about, right? That randomness where it's like, as the player that has the monsters that are being rescued, I'm really hoping for certain effects to come up. And so when they do, now you get those big moments where it's like, oh my gosh, I needed to rescue this exact one to be able to KO their best thing on the table right now, and it happened. So you're also creating this built-in tension that leads to exciting moments throughout each game. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is not a single game of Escape Land plays out the same. And that's a huge part of that, is the way that the monsters function. So definitely probably one of the things I'm most proud of, for sure.
Before we get into the board here, talk to me about when it comes to the cards themselves. So, the flavor text, what some of the characteristics are, if there's anything like flying or trampling from the magic world, or just kind of how that all works and what we're looking at when we're reading a card.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're looking at card types themselves, there is only, quote unquote, I'd say three card types to look at. Monsters, we kind of just touched on a bit. Monsters start in play, they start face down, and they each have when rescued effects. So when they're rescued, the effect triggers, and then you get to use that effect when it's rescued. For critters, you have two different types. You have basic critters. Basic critters are summoned throughout the game by using action points, which you will see in the top left-hand corner. And that's another thing that's different about this game. There are no resource cards. There's no mana, there's no energy attachments, etc. You have action points to spend during your turn, and you only get up to 3 max per turn. So you're summoning basic critters there, and basic critters have 4 different trait types. You have dragons, fish pals, ghoulies, and snugglers, and they each have varied play styles. Dragons are, you want to play giant dragon legends that have amazing abilities. Fish pals are the most direct and straightforward, but they're tricky because they have certain protection effects to protect the ocean. And then you have ghoulies, which is they're graveyard based. So you have things being revived back from the discard pile. You have milling effects in your deck, and then they're focused on spot removal effects like KOing other critters. And then you have snugglers, which snugglers are probably like my personal favorite because their style is they try to keep the game close, right? And so it's that they try to keep you close to them with a warm embrace through various disruptive effects. So you have those traits within the game. And then critters also have in the bottom right hand corner an escape point rating. And that's how many points that they gain per turn as long as they're upright. And so a lot of the common effects you'll see for basic critters will be like when summoned effects. So when they're played, when they're KO'd, or they'll have constant effects or critter abilities. Critter abilities kind of take the having them to have to be ready each turn and turning them sideways to get a certain bonus. So you'll lose those escape points for the turn, but you'll get a bonus, which is pretty cool. And then the last card type is legends. Legends essentially serve as ways for you to both clean up your board space, but then also get really big effects. Because in Escape Land, you can only have 4 critters max in play at any time. And so with legends, you're actually linking your critters in play together, summoning the legend on top, and then getting that powerful effect. So it's forcing you to keep the game moving, forcing you to clean up your board. And then also that's kind of that trick is the reason why games play out differently is that legends can't be summoned by action points. You have to link them. So sometimes you may draw more legends than you'd like. Sometimes you might not draw enough. And that creates a varied experience every time.
Now, I have a bunch more questions when it comes to the cards and all that kind of stuff, but not to get ahead of myself too much here. We have a good basis. So talk to me about the deck building and playing the game when it comes to the field and how that all meshes, what those requirements are, and how the turns work.
Yeah, so deck building itself, you can have up to 2 traits per deck. So for instance, you can build a straight up just all dragon deck, you can build a dragon and fish pile deck, but you can't pass 2 traits. So it has to be 1 or just 2. And then your monsters have to match. So if I'm playing dragons and fish piles, I must have dragon and fish pile monsters. I can't do all or nothing. Again, unless you're playing like a mono trait deck, like just dragons, you can just play all dragons. Additionally, you can have up to 3 copies of any given card in your critter deck itself, and you must have 40 cards in your deck. So 3 copies each, 40 cards max, and then you must have 4 monsters to be able to play the game.
But just explain for everyone how Kickstarter works and how that plays into the picture and actually making this become a reality.
Absolutely. So Kickstarter itself is, as everyone knows, or people that don't know, it is a crowdfunding platform, and it's also sort of like a marketing tool. So any new projects that get up there, when they're launched, they get pushed to the front of the line, and so people can see them, and you get a lot of visibility, which helps you build traction. But ultimately, what it is to take the dream that you may have or the project you may have and build up a community to help then fund that project and get that project kickstarted, which means getting that initial bit of funding to be able to start getting the game going. So one of the things that's been interesting in the space, right? And that's probably been building this Kickstarter and building this community is it's not like you just can put the project out there. You can't just like, hey, I'm launching my Kickstarter today. No, there's so much that goes into trying to create a successful campaign. And a lot of it has to do with putting yourself out there in various community groups, offering to help people in exchange for being able to show off your game, building up a social media following so people know who you are. And then, of course, just having your own, Discord or your own community group that people will flock to. And then you have to actively participate. You have to have conversations, all that stuff too. So all that goes into starting the Kickstarter as well.
When it comes to the Kickstarter campaign that we've talked about, there's a lot of prep work to be able to get yourself out there. And first, just how long have you been exactly working on Escape Land and trying to make this a reality?
Yeah, so Escape Land will hit its 2nd birthday of full development right around August of this year. So it's been about a year and a half that I've been working on the project. And it all started with the name because of a conversation that I had with one of my best friends. Shout out to Richard Zapp. We were talking about what makes a game fun. And there was a lot of different conversation, a lot of back and forth. And ultimately what we decided on is what makes a game fun is the ability to escape from the world around you and dive into the game. Right. And that's what fun really is. It's allowing you to spend whatever's going on in the world, a reality whatsoever, and fully immerse yourself into something. And so that is where the name Escape Land was born. So that was about August of 2024, where that first happened. And then from there, we started designing.
Going back to 2024, I want to say that's around the time that MetaZoo, which for people who aren't familiar, it's another monster collecting card game where you battle. There were cryptids at the time. I have the starter decks, but I've yet to actually ever play them. But at this point, unfortunately, they filed for bankruptcy around that time and have since been bought by somebody else, and it is still going. But hearing about this when it comes to a trading card game, a collectible card game, and just talking about some of the trials and tribulations when it comes to being successful, and also tying that into the Kickstarter with what your goal is of how much you need to raise, where that'll get you, and how that all works in the big picture.
Yeah, absolutely. I do know that when MetaZoo ended at the beginning of 2024, at this point, it was one of those inflection points for the indie TCG space, right? Because you had this company in this game that flew so close to the sun, but there was so many issues along the way that we all came to learn about throughout the many months of where their focuses were, what they were missing on, and ultimately they failed to make the main thing the main thing, and the main thing being the game itself. And that's probably one of the biggest detractors of MetaZoo, is that the very first rendition of it was not a very playable game. Like it wasn't something that people could really sink their teeth into from a gameplay perspective, and it became really quickly about collecting. And so leading that into my project, Kickstarter, etc., is changing that. And the main thing in Escape Land is the game itself. That is the most important part of it, is sitting down to play. It is something that me and my wife make time to do every single week. It's something that we do in our Discord every Thursday. We make time just to jam games. And when you do that, there's challenges. The challenge number one is the fastest way to get your game out there is to appeal to people that are in the collectible space and get them to see this new and shiny thing and what they can do with it. But the way to build sustainability has been, well, you have to start with this grassroots community that can rally around this game itself. And then you have to take the approach of, I still have to appeal to those people. I still have to be able to appeal to collectors, investors, and things like that, because they take up such a big part of the pie. But you can never stop making the game the main thing. So that leads me into, or when we talk about the roadmap, sets are planned out already. We're already starting to work on designs for future sets and how we're going to be able to ramp it up from where we're starting at with the Kickstarter, which the goal is $20,000. That will get enough of a first run to then not only sustain the Kickstarter, but then be able to help us sell throughout the year to then fund further print runs. And so we're just going to try and focus on building this low and slow as we go through.
And I want to get into this first run and this first set of cards you have. But first, looking at the art themselves, I know for a lot of people in that space, in the age range that you mentioned, and even my age range, that it's very nostalgic. You think of Pokemon Red and Blue for the artist there, which was Ken Sugimori. And not to say it's by no means a rip, because so many other people have copied it, and it's in honor of something that is people look at so fondly. But just talk to me about why you went with this art style, maybe who's behind the art for you, and how this really plays into your branding and your image here.
Absolutely. So the art style, the biggest reason for going with that direction is, like I told you, one of my biggest goals in the space is approachability. Having that art style appeals to everyone, like people of our age group, younger, being able to appeal to women who aren't necessarily into trading card games, still being able to appeal to the kids of the 30-year-old that potentially buys this game. Having that art style creates an approachable feel, which was the most important thing to me. And at the same time, like, yeah, I wanted to harken back to those days they're past, right? Because now people buy packs to rip them and ship them. People buy packs to, try and become an investor in the space. And it's like, at the end of the day, I just wanted to kind of just take us back to where we all started. I wanted to reimagine that experience that we had 30 years ago and put it into a game that is completely different from anything else out there. So using that art style was very, very important to me. And I think it accomplishes that goal of being approachable, which is my number one goal. And the artist, Jet Yates, has worked on both renditions of MetaZoo, both the original as well as the current game, and then has worked on other indie projects as well. And she is supremely talented. I mean, and this is probably one of the coolest things about Escape Plan, all of the critters, monsters, it's not just the illustration she did. She created the characters. She All I sent were designs through of what I wanted cards to do and different effects and the different traits. Everything is from her mind. So this has basically become her canvas, which is so cool to be able to give an indie artist that space to do that. And what she's done has absolutely blown me away. Like her work is incredible.
Certainly not a Palmon situation, and anyone can do watercolor, right? So
Yeah.
it looks very pretty and very beautiful. And I do have to say though, I think what a big part of maybe what scares women away from the card game space is the smelly players that are at local game stores. But I don't know. That's just me.
100%. You're absolutely right. Yes, there's too much of that in our space for sure.
In going now to the sets themselves, talk to me about this first one that you have, how many cards you plan to be in it, the variety of cards, kind of what you mentioned earlier, and then also the plans for subsequent sets. And I'm pretty sure you mentioned before this first set is going to be called Free the Monsters.
Yes. So set one is Free the Monsters. It is a booster set that will also have quick escape decks. Quick escape decks are just meant to be an introductory product to get people into the game. And those come with cards that are not in the booster boxes whatsoever. There are 22 cards in each quick escape deck, 11 unique cards that are outside of the boosters. And then the booster box itself, what it'll contain, that set will be 92 total cards. But when you add in the fact that you have non-foil and foil renditions, it ends up being a total of 110 cards in the set itself. And the number was very carefully chosen. Large sets seem to be a lot of what games do. What I really wanted to do was I put a lot of the heart of the gameplay of an escape land into the common and uncommon slots. People are going to be able to, when they buy a booster box, they're going to be able to build multiple decks. And not only that, but they're going to have enough product to be able to help their friends and family get into the game and build multiple decks as well. And then, of course, we understand chase cards are important. So we do that through alt art cards, which are our fabled rares, which are just alt art versions of different rares and uncommons in the set that are kind of have the most story driven characters that we have in the game right now. So that is set one. Set two is the Great Escape. And the Great Escape are currently being designed with two new traits being added, dinosaurs and robots. So I'm excited about dinosaurs and robots, currently working on the gameplay for them. And set three is called Outer Limits. Outer Limits is going to be focusing on space as well as the Arctic. So, getting different critters from those areas and aliens and things like that too. So those are currently what's on the roadmap right now. There's going to be more down the pipeline, including Pet Shop Heroes is a small expansion where it's like just doing various critters from the pet shop. So very excited for that and the different stuff we have planned.
I might like the pet shop set. I collected Littlest Pet Shops as a kid, if you can
Awesome.
believe it. Oh yeah, I had so many.
That's so awesome. Yeah, no, Pet Shop Heroes is a good one. My wife actually came up with that idea because we have a bagel hound. He's a beagle basset. His name is Doug. He's the love of our life, so being able to get Doug on a card would be pretty awesome.
I think he might have just came up on the slideshow that we have here. We have your Instagram feed playing. I think he might have came up.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, if you see an adorable beagle basset, that is Doug.
Now, currently there is a way to play the game. I saw you have the prototypes up for sale.
Yep.
Talk to me about that a little bit. And then also when the game is eventually out, the price points of what you're kind of thinking when it comes to pre-made decks and also the booster boxes.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's currently available online to be able to purchase are prototype decks through the Game Crafter. These are strictly prototype decks themselves. They'll be made out of a different material that we'll have from the printed set, and they're made by a different printer. But if you want to sink your teeth into something right away, the Quick Escape decks are a great way to do that. And the prototypes offer a really fun experience that you can get through the games very quickly. So if you don't want to try it out, you can do that there, as well as trying it online through Tabletop Simulator. When it comes to the pricing of how we're going to be working, I want to be as conscious as possible of the space. And so MSRP for booster boxes will be $75. But if you're on Kickstarter, if you buy any of them in a bundle, you'll see those prices decrease to $65 and less because I really want to focus on getting product into people's hands. And then the introductory products, the Quick Escape decks themselves, when they're fully printed, they will only be $10 a piece. So again, you'll have a very quick and easy way to be able to get in the game. And so much so that the first tier pricing will be $30, and it'll be both quick escape decks and then 2 booster packs per person. So it'll be 4 booster packs and 2 quick escape decks, $30, easy for anyone to be able to get into and try the game when the Kickstarter launches. And then of course we go from there.
Seems cheaper than the going rate of especially the hype around Pokemon and some of the other card games. So you can't beat it there. Obviously, you are a newer game, so that makes sense. But definitely, people need to collect something. I know I've pivoted from Pokemon a little bit just to collect something. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been a little bit of a thing.
Yeah.
So I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the biggest thing, was creating pricing that was fair. I mean, other Kickstarters have done it. They've done $100 per box, and that's just like, man, $100 is just a lot of money. Like, and I would love for someone to be able to, because one of the packages is essentially just like a booster box and then 2 of each quick escape deck. Like, that to me will be $100, like that whole thing there. And like, pretty much that gives you more than enough you need to be able to build multiple decks and play with, 4 people right off the bat. So I kind of just want to set that $100 price point as, hey, if you're looking to get into this more than just trying it out, like, you're not going to feel bad about that investment. Like, and so that's kind of the goal there. And then, of course, with the way the chase stuff works, with the fabled rares, there's only 2 per box. It's like, you never know. You open your booster box, you'll open some cool cards, and then you may end up being able to do something on the secondary market as well. So $100 is a great way to get into the game too.
And real quick, just to make sure I got it right, when people do eventually buy into the Kickstarter, is that going to be a mix of donations and also you get product that you're looking when it eventually comes out, or is that one or the other? Just tell me that real quick.
Oh yeah, there will be a tier to where you can donate anything if you just want to donate without getting a reward. But yeah, everything is going to be pretty much like pledging for different rewards for different products.
And we got a few more minutes here, but I want to make sure we get everything in for you. So real quick though, the roadmap I want to touch on. So it has when the Kickstarter starts out, and then also when everything does go to plan, your shipments, and then organized play, which I think is cool. So tell me about that whole rollout.
Yeah, so the organized play program is something I'm currently working on right now, actually. And it's not just, I don't want to just do in store. I would like to figure out ways to do at-home organized play. So, you and your significant other, you have the ability to play and earn certain rewards. But I want to do a unique spin on organized play. I really want to kind of go back to the old days of league play with Pokemon. And I wanted, since you have this ability, you have this mechanism of the monsters, I essentially want people to get a point every round for each monster they rescue, on top of getting the points for being the first to do so. So even if you didn't necessarily win your round, you got the points for your monsters. And then each league, each week, whoever had the most points gets the weekly winner promo. And then you pass out from there. And then at the end of the season, you'll of course have a season winner who accrued the most points over the course of a season, and they get rewarded that way too. So being able to translate that both in the local game store is important to me, but also I really want to incentivize at-home play, because kitchen tables where primarily everyone does their gaming.
Before we go here, is there anything else that you want to add that you think I missed, or is this just your chance to share anything? We got at least a minute or two here before we got to head out.
Yeah, I think we talked about a lot. I feel good about the things that we talked about. All I can really say is, like, it's really hard to translate how fun this game is just by talking about it. I do know that anyone who has interacted with it has come back with such amazing feedback on not just the gameplay, but the experience they had while playing. And so if you haven't tried it out yet, if you haven't joined the Discord, if you haven't followed the pre-launch page, if you haven't just started to join our community, I highly recommend you do so. I think you're going to find a lot of like-minded people that share a passion, and you're going to have a really good time doing it. And that's for anybody in the space. One of my goals with it was to help increase the number of people in the space beyond just the typical person that plays trading card games. And I want to see more people go to conventions. I want to see an escape land convention. I would love to see an escape land amusement park. Why not? But like, ultimately, I just want to get more people into the space doing the thing that I love so much, which is playing games.
Thank you for joining me very much, Mr. Combs. I appreciate your time and talking about card games. Like I said, it's the first time we've had one come on and share that. So we've had like a smaller developer come in who had just it was a card game, but it wasn't collectible. So it's just like, it was cards and came out. But this is a bigger picture here, and you got a good thing going. So thanks for giving us that chance.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Anthony. Thank you so much.